This video will show you how to create a maze game in Scratch. Step 1 is to draw your maze background. So you're going to start on the stage and you're going to go to backdrops. You can use the paint bucket to select a color and change the background color. Then you'll want to pick a different color, so I'm going to pick white for my maze lines. You can adjust. I'm going to use the line tool because it allows you to draw straight lines. The paint tool will not. You can adjust the width of the line down here. I'm going to keep it relatively skinny so that way my sprite can get through my maze. And one trick is if you hold the shift button down while you draw, it makes your line straight. So I'm just going to draw a very simple maze, nothing too crazy. You can draw something different, feel free to do that. And just a little something for them to get through. So now that that step is done, step 2 says to think about what you want your Maze Runner sprite to be. I'm not a huge fan of Scratch Cat. You can keep that, but I'm going to pick a different one. So I'm going to come over here. Any of these sprites would do. You can even import your own sprite if you want to. You can quickly look that up in tips. So I'm just going to select Nano. Now, once I've done that, I can go ahead and right-click on Scratch Cat and delete him. I don't need him. Now, I need to get Nano sized correctly, so I'm going to use the Shrink tool and click on him a bunch of times until I see that he can actually fit through my maze. And then I will place him. The next step asks you to create some characters that allow you to move your sprite. So we're going to start by saying when green flag clicked, and then we're going to use an if-then statement. So what we're going to say is if the up arrow is pushed, then we want to point in a certain direction to make him look towards where he's walking. So this one is labeled up, so up arrow will go with up. And then we want him to move 5 steps. So we're also going to put a forever block around this because we want it to happen all the time. Okay. So what this does when I hit the green check or the green flag is this allows him to move up. Okay. So we will go ahead and move him back the way that he was. Going the wrong way. So now the nice thing is once I've written a script that I know works, I can just duplicate it for my down, my left, and my right. So I can right click on this and duplicate it, and I can change this to down arrow, going down. Again, I'll do my left and my right now, duplicate. So this would be my left arrow, and I'm going left, and then I'll duplicate one more time for my right arrow. And right. So now when I hit the green check, I can move him in any direction. The problem is though, is that he can still go through the walls. Also, he doesn't restart. So first I'm going to add a little bit of script, and this is not in the directions, this is something you'll have to think about. I'm going to add a little bit of script that says when green flag clicked, it's going to put him back in his original position and at his original starting place. So once I start playing, if he ends up over here, when I click the green flag, he'll always start back over here at the beginning. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a little bit of code that allows him not to go through the walls. So we're going to use another if-then statement. We're going to say if he touches the color white, then he will move back -5 spaces. So that means he won't walk through the wall. He'll have to kind of jump back from the wall. Now the way that I get the right color is I click on this green color here and I come over, and you can see that when I'm on the red it turns red. So I'll get it to white and I'll click on the white. So this is saying if touching color white, then move -5 steps. So I'm going to add this to each one of the arrow codes. And again, I can use my duplicate tool, and I'm going to put it right under these move 5 steps. So that way, if that happens, then the computer knows to not let him walk through the walls. Let me duplicate this one more time. So I've added it to all of my code. So now let's test it out before we move on. So I'm going to hit the green flag, and when I move down and he can't walk through walls, and he comes around and is able to not walk through any walls. Now the trick is when I hit the green flag, will he go back to his starting position? And he does go back. So that is steps 1, 2, 3, and 4 of your maze game. So now step 5 is going to ask you to start adding your treasure sprites. Once we add one treasure sprite and get the code written on it, then we can just duplicate it a bunch of times. So I'm going to have Nano eating cheese puffs because why not? So we're going to resize the cheese puffs so I know that it fits inside. And remember, once I get this code correct, then I can just duplicate it a bunch of times. So this is step 5 in your directions, and make sure that you're on the Cheesy Puffs script page and not Nano's page. So we're starting on the Cheesy Puffs page. So we will say when green flag clicked, we want it to show because at different times it's going to hide. So we want to make sure we give it the direction to show. So we'll say when green flag checked, show. And then we're going to use another if-then statement. A lot of if-then statements in a game, letting the computer make decisions. So we're going to say, if the Cheesy Puff touches Nano, meaning if Nano comes up, then it will hide. So it will be almost like Nano ate the bowl of Cheesy Puffs. So let's see if that happens when I do this. So that doesn't happen. I'm missing something. So let's take a look. I probably need to add a forever block so this always happens. So now I've got forever all the time. If any time he touches them, then he will hide. So let's see if that works. So that does work. That was the trick. So you've got to make sure that you add a forever block. So make sure that when you hit the green flag, and you may have to hit it a few times, that it does show back up. So now what we want to do is be able to add score. We're going to do that by coming over here to data, and we're going to create a variable, and we're going to call it score. And we want it to apply to all sprites, and we'll say okay. And now we have these score blocks that pop up. So now we need to put the score block inside of our code over here. So what we're going to say that if Nano ever touches the Cheesy Puff sprite, it will hide and it will change the score by 1. So this allows us to change a score whenever they eat them. So now we're going to click the green flag to see if it works. And he ate the Cheesy Puff and it changed his score by 1. So we are good to go on that. So when I click the green flag, and I may have to click it twice, everything comes back. So now that I know that this code works, I'm able to right click here and duplicate this a bunch of times. So that way I have lots of Cheesy Poofs all over the game that he can eat. And I'll just keep duplicating it because I know that the script is right. And I will keep bringing it back over and just kind of arranging it. You want to try to have at least 10 treasure sprites in your maze. You can definitely have more, maybe a little less, but you want it to actually increase in score as it goes through, especially if you're not making a very complicated maze. So we're just going to keep duplicating, duplicating, duplicating. So now we want to be able to show them where the end is, especially if you made a complicated maze. So we are going to need to have like a grand prize sprite, something at the end, okay? Something that's going to show a message when the game is actually done. So what we're going to do for this is we are going to create another sprite here. We're just going to duplicate it. We're going to put it at the end here, but this time we're going to go up to costumes, and we're actually going to change out what this one looks like. So I'm going to find a different costume to show them that they are actually at the end. So I'm going to go over here to things, and it might take a second. So I'm actually going to put a fortune cookie at the end. It's going to look much different than my Cheesy Poofs, so they'll know. And then I can just go ahead and delete the Cheesy Puff because I don't need that one. And so that would signify that there is an end to the game. Now on this one, I could do a couple of things in the script You could learn about broadcasting a message where it changes the background. What you could do is actually come over here to stage and backdrops and create another backdrop.